Every country in the world fears economic crises, but there are some crises that don't just shake stock markets. They change the psychology of societies, the decision-making mechanisms of governments, and even the way people believe in the future. And the event I'm about to tell you today is exactly that kind of turning point. A moment that affected governments, economists, and ordinary people all at the same time, from America to Europe, from Asia to Africa. And interestingly, behind this global shift stood a single man, a single idea, and a single moment of courage. Because the person who shaped modern economics into what it is today wasn't a politician or a general. He was an economist who transformed fear into numbers, the man who determined how the world spends money, how governments borrow, and who a crisis actually saves, versus who it destroys. But who was this man? And how did he end up in the invisible driver's seat of the world economy? The year is 1930, and the world is collapsing. After the 1929 stock market crash, entire countries fell into chaos. Factories shut down, banks failed one after another, and people lined up for hours just to get a bowl of soup. The old rules of economics, governments shouldn't intervene, budgets must stay balanced, were completely useless. Economists, politicians, and world leaders all asked the same desperate question: what do we do now? Everyone, except one person, John Maynard Keynes. Keynes argued something shocking for that era. When people stop spending, the government must spend for them. When businesses are afraid, the state must become the biggest customer. When the private sector collapses, public spending must rise. To many, this sounded like economic heresy. To others, it sounded like salvation. The turning point, 1933. Franklin D. Roosevelt becomes President of the United States. The Great Depression is destroying the country. Millions are unemployed. Thousands of banks have collapsed. Confidence is gone. Roosevelt reads Keynes. He listens to Keynes. And then he does something no American president had ever dared before. He spends enormously, on purpose. Government projects explode across the country. Bridges, dams, railroads, public buildings, electrification programs, rural development. Money flows into the economy. Because Keynes believed something radical. In a crisis, the problem is not that the government spends too much. The problem is that it spends too little. For the first time in modern history, a government uses debt not as a burden, but as a tool to save its people. Europe follows, slowly, then suddenly. Britain, France, and other European nations initially resist. But by the late 1930s, as unemployment rises and unrest spreads, they quietly begin applying Keynesian ideas. Even after World War II, when the world tries to rebuild from ashes, Keynes's theories dominate global economic thinking. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, and even the foundations of the modern global financial system were all shaped, directly or indirectly, by Keynes's vision. Debt becomes normal, deficits become strategic, government spending becomes a tool, not a sin, and world economies are never the same again. The paradox of today, fast forward to now. Every country is in debt. The United States owes more than $38 trillion, the highest in its history. The European Union carries around $14 trillion. Japan nearly $9 trillion. Even oil giants like Saudi Arabia or export powerhouses like Germany and China owe massive amounts. Everyone is drowning in debt. So the real question is, if everyone owes money, who is everyone borrowing from? The answer is simple, yet unsettling. We borrow from the future, from the belief that tomorrow will be richer than today, from the hope that growth will continue, from the system Keynes helped create. Conclusion: the legacy of a man who rewrote fear. Keynes didn't just change economics, he changed the meaning of fear, risk, and crisis. He taught governments that in the darkest moments, when citizens are afraid to spend a single coin, the state must become the engine that keeps society alive. Whether you agree with him or not, one fact is undeniable. Every modern budget, every economic rescue plan, every stimulus, every national debt contains a piece of Keynes's fingerprints. And this is how a single economist quietly took the wheel of the world economy and steered it into the age of debt-driven growth.